The park was buzzing with laughter. Children chasing kites, swings creaking in the breeze, mothers chatting on benches. But in the middle of all that noise, a silence suddenly fell over one man. A little boy, no older than 7, had walked up to him. His shoes were scuffed, his shirt a little too small, his big brown eyes shimmering with a longing far beyond his years. He tugged gently at the man's sleeve. "Sir," the boy whispered, voice trembling, "can you be my dad?" The man froze. The world around them seemed to fade, the laughter dimming, the wind pausing. Parents nearby turned their heads, startled. The boy's question hung heavy in the air, simple yet earth-shattering. Why would a child ask that of a stranger? And why him? If this moment already moved you, stay with us, because the truth behind that question will leave you speechless. The boy's name was Liam. His life had been a patchwork of loss and longing. His father had died when he was still a baby, too young to remember his face, too young to remember the sound of his voice. All Liam had were faded photos and his mother's quiet stories whispered at bedtime. His mother, Emma, carried the world on her shoulders. She worked mornings cleaning classrooms at the local school, afternoons at the diner, and late nights sewing clothes for neighbors just to keep the lights on. No matter how tired she was, she always came home with a smile for Liam. But Liam noticed the cracks. He saw how her smile faded when she thought he wasn't looking. He saw her sit by the window, staring at the families walking past. Fathers tossing their kids in the air, fathers holding little hands, fathers laughing at inside jokes. At school events, when the other kids ran into their father's arms, Liam sat a little straighter, telling himself it didn't matter. But when he saw the empty chair beside his mother, his chest tightened with a loneliness he couldn't shake. He didn't need toys. He didn't need riches. What he wanted was something no one could buy. A father to look up to. A father to call his own. And so, on that sunny afternoon in the park, when Liam saw a man sitting alone with sadness in his eyes, he felt something stir inside. Maybe this was his chance. Maybe this was the moment he had been waiting for. The man on the bench was Daniel. He hadn't come to the park for laughter or sunshine. He came because silence felt heavier in his empty apartment, and sitting among strangers made him feel less alone. When Liam tugged his sleeve and asked, "Can you be my dad?" Daniel's heart stuttered. He looked down at the boy, thin shoulders, wide pleading eyes, and for a moment words failed him. Daniel's instinct was to pull away, to smile politely, hand the boy back to whoever he belonged to, and leave before anyone noticed. But as he opened his mouth, a voice cut through the air. "Liam!" Emma rushed over, breathless, her apron still dusted with flour from her shift at the diner. She grabbed her son's hand, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. "I am so sorry," she stammered, turning to Daniel. "He doesn't usually." But Daniel lifted a hand gently. "It's all right," he said, his voice low, calm. His eyes lingered on Liam, then flicked back to Emma. Liam clung tighter to his mother's arm but kept his gaze fixed on Daniel. There was no mistaking the question in those eyes. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't childish play. It was a longing so deep it made Daniel's chest ache. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something stir inside him. Something he thought he had buried long ago. And though he didn't know why, he realized he wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. Daniel didn't know why he came back to the park the next day. He told himself it was just for the fresh air, maybe to read his newspaper under the sun. But when he sat down on the same bench, he wasn't surprised to see Liam spot him from across the playground. The boy ran toward him with unshakable excitement. "You came back!" Daniel chuckled softly, the sound foreign in his throat. "Looks like I did. Turn 1. From then on, it became routine. Daniel would show up, and Liam would find him. They talked about school, superheroes, the stars. One afternoon, Daniel brought a kite. Liam's laughter echoed across the park as they ran together, the kite soaring high. For the first time in years, Daniel felt joy that wasn't tied to work or money, but to something simpler. Something real. Emma watched from a distance, torn between gratitude and unease. Her son's smile had grown brighter, but what if it didn't last? What if this man disappeared, just like everyone else? Turn 2. One evening, as Daniel walked them home, Liam held tightly to his hand. Just before reaching their apartment, the boy looked up and said it again, this time louder, firmer. "Can you please be my dad?" The words hung heavy in the air. Neighbors overheard. Emma froze, mortified, her eyes flashing with both fear and hope. She opened her mouth to smooth things over, to apologize for her son's boldness, but the look on Daniel's face stopped her cold. He wasn't laughing it off. He wasn't pulling away. His eyes shimmered with something deeper, something broken, something he had hidden for years. And in that fragile silence, Emma realized Daniel had a story of his own, one he hadn't told them yet. Daniel knelt so he was eye level with Liam. The boy's question hung in the night air, heavier than any Daniel had carried in years. Emma's hand tightened on her son's shoulder, her voice trembling. "Liam, that's not something you just..." But Daniel raised his hand gently. "No. He deserves an answer." He swallowed hard, his throat thick. "The truth is, I've dreamed of being a dad my whole life. But life had other plans. My marriage ended years ago. We tried to have children, but we couldn't. And when she left, I told myself that chapter was over." His eyes glistened. "I buried the idea of family because it hurt too much." Emma's breath caught. Liam tilted his head, trying to understand, his small fingers still curled around Daniel's hand. Daniel continued, his voice breaking. "So when you asked me that question in the park, Liam, I didn't know what to say, because no one's ever asked me before. And I realized I wanted to say yes more than I've wanted anything in a very long time." Emma's heart pounded. She had seen men come and go, some offering kindness that vanished overnight. But this wasn't charity. This was confession. Daniel's voice softened, almost a whisper. "I can't promise I'll be perfect. But I can promise this. I won't walk away. Not from you, Liam. Not from your mom. If you'll let me, I want to be here." For a moment, silence blanketed the street. The hum of passing cars faded, the glow of streetlights felt softer, almost sacred. Emma's eyes brimmed with tears, torn between disbelief and relief. Liam's face lit up with a hope so pure it nearly broke her heart. And in that fragile moment, the three of them stood on the edge of something none of them had expected. A chance at family. But the question lingered. Could they truly trust this second chance? The days that followed were cautious, uncertain, but different. Daniel kept his word. He returned to the park, not once or twice, but every single day. He walked Liam to school, helped with homework, even stayed late at Emma's kitchen table, telling stories that filled the small apartment with laughter it hadn't heard in years. At first, Emma kept her guard up. She watched every move, waiting for him to vanish like others before him. But the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. Daniel wasn't vanishing. He was showing up. Consistently. Quietly. Fully. One spring afternoon, the three of them found themselves back in the park where it had all begun. Liam tugged Daniel's hand, pulling him toward the swings. As Daniel pushed him higher and higher, Liam's laughter rang out, bright and unrestrained. When the boy came running back breathless, he wrapped his small arms around Daniel's waist and whispered, "I'm glad you said yes." Daniel's chest tightened. He crouched down, meeting Liam's eyes with a smile that trembled on the edge of tears. "So am I, son. So am I." Emma stood a few feet away, her hand pressed over her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was carrying the world alone. For the first time, she saw her son whole again. The empty chair at school events was no longer empty. The silence at dinner was no longer heavy. And the hollow ache in Daniel's life was filled with something money and success had never given him. Family. Because sometimes, family isn't made by blood. It's made by love. It's made by choice. And it can begin with one small, trembling question that changes everything. Can you be my dad? If one boy's simple question could build a family and change 3 lives forever, imagine what the next story will do to your heart. Don't stop here. Watch our Kindness That Changed Everything playlist and let the next twist remind you why love and hope are never lost. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like this, subscribe now and join our Soul Twist family, because the next story might just be the one that changes you.